By now, we've all heard about the horrific mass shooting that happened in Buffalo last weekend, where an 18-year-old white supremacist named Peyton Gendron opened fire at a supermarket in a mostly black area of the city. 3 were injured, and there were 10 fatalities, all of whom were African American. After the shooting, a manifesto allegedly written by Gendron was discovered. Quote, "That name matches the name given in an 180-page manifesto that surfaced online shortly after the attack and took credit for the violence in the name of white supremacy. The document plotted the attack in grotesque detail. The writer plotted his actions down to the minute, included diagrams of his path through the store, and said he specifically targeted the Tops Market location on Jefferson Avenue because its zip code has the highest percentage of black people close enough to where he lives." Gendron live-streamed the attack on the social media platform Twitch and had the N-word written on his rifle, videos from the scene showed. He was charged with first-degree murder after killing 10 people and wounding 3 others. The alleged manifesto admits to planning the attack passively for the past few years, and seriously since January. It bemoans a purported white genocide taking place in America and proudly brags of the writer's racist and anti-Semitic views. And while many, predominantly on the right, have sought to blame Gendron's mental health issues, including Tucker Carlson, who I am definitely positive has absolutely nothing to gain for himself by doing so, the blatant white supremacy the killer espoused undoubtedly overrides whatever role mental health may have played in his actions. And relying on that argument only furthers the negative stigma surrounding those with mental health issues, but that's not the point of this video. And how much, if at all, people like Tucker, who have espoused at least some variations of the racist great replacement theory, are to blame is also beyond the scope of this video. The point of this video is to, first and foremost, state that yes, this was unquestionably a terrorist attack. Not everybody has referred to it as such. In fact, even federal authorities have shied away from doing so, despite Gendron's own admission that he is indeed a terrorist. And that's a problem, because it's an indication that it's only terrorism if a black or brown person does it, and a white person is incapable of committing an act of terrorism. Let's say you think I'm kind of reaching. I challenge you to pretend that a black person did the exact same thing to a group of white people. Would the people who were refusing to call this a terrorist attack, including the FBI, still do so? I think the answer is pretty clear. Still not convinced he's a terrorist? Let's take a look at the official definition of terrorism. Terrorism, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. With that in mind, let's refer back to a section of Peyton Gendron's manifesto real quick here. Quote, "It bemoans a purported white genocide taking place in America and proudly brags of the writer's racist and anti-Semitic views." Bottom line, the dude's a terrorist, and if you deny that, you should do some serious self-reflection on what you consider terrorism to be. Anyway, now that we've established that this shooting was undoubtedly an act of terrorism, we need to talk about the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act of 2022. The Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act of 2022, which I will be referring to as the DTPA for the remainder of this video, was introduced by Illinois Congressman Brad Schneider in response to the attempted insurrection at the Capitol last year. In introducing the bill at the time, Schneider stated, quote, "Unlike after 9/11, the threat that reared its ugly head on January 6th is from domestic terror groups and extremists, often racially motivated violent individuals. America must be vigilant to combat those radicalized to violence, and the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act gives our government the tools to identify, monitor, and thwart their illegal activities. Combating the threat of domestic terrorism and white supremacy is not a Democratic or Republican issue, not left versus right or urban versus rural. Domestic terrorism is an American issue, a serious threat that we can and must address together." First of all, January 6th, for as horrendous as it wasn't on any level that is comparable to 9/11, and comparing the two only does a disservice to your cause, because a lot of well-meaning people will believe you're making it sound worse than it actually is, which will turn them away from supporting your efforts. But getting back on track, there is already plenty of cause for alarm just in this statement alone. It's quotes such as, "America must be vigilant to combat those radicalized to violence," and that the government must identify, monitor, and thwart their illegal activities that we've all heard before in the wake of a major terrorist attack, which has led to the erosion of American civil liberties and protections from unreasonable search and seizure. The most prominent example of this is the passage of the Patriot Act in response to 9/11. I already made a video last year on why we didn't need another Patriot Act after January 6th, but now the House has actually voted to pass the bill. And although, because of the mostly party line vote the bill passed on, it is questionable at best as to whether or not it'll clear the 60 vote hurdle in the Senate. The fact that the entire Democratic Party in the House signed off on this bill is a cause for concern. Like I mentioned in my previous video on the Patriot Act, even White House officials have admitted that it has not done a damn thing to ever stop a terrorist attack. Furthermore, as I also mentioned in that video, it has led to the warrantless collection of innocent Americans' personal cell phone records. The Patriot Act provision, known as Section 215, permits intelligence and law enforcement agencies to acquire from a service provider records of someone's communications, such as phone calls or email records, that are relevant to a terrorism or espionage investigation. In June 2013, The Guardian, based on Edward Snowden's leaks, revealed that the Bush and Obama administrations had secretly been using Section 215 to acquire Americans' phone data in bulk. The revelation led Congress to significantly curtail domestic bulk phone records and collection in 2015. The overt disregard for and decimation of civil liberties by laws such as the Patriot Act is why we cannot fall for the "we need to stop terrorism" dodge that supporters of these dangerous laws use in order to sell their destructive ideas. Also because of the profiling of predominantly minority communities that arises from these laws. An NSA document leaked by former agency contractor Edward Snowden to reporter Glenn Greenwald shows 202 Americans targeted among the approximately 7,485 email addresses monitored between 2002 and 2008, Greenwald's news service The Intercept reports. To monitor Americans, government agencies must first make the case to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court that there is probable cause that the targets are terrorist agents, foreign spies, or, quote, are or may be abetting sabotage, espionage, or terrorism. Despite this filter, The Intercept identified 5 Muslim Americans with high public profile, including civil rights leaders, academics, lawyers, and a political candidate. This example, along with the aforementioned example of the FBI targeting black extremists for potential terrorist threats, does not bode well for the outcome of the DTPA if it is ultimately passed. Finally, a question that you have to ask Democrats in Congress as they're pushing this bill is this. Do you really want to make Republicans look like the good guys in all this? Like I said, the DTPA passed the House on a mostly party line vote, with just one Republican, Adam Kinzinger, voting for it. Let's take a look at the supposed reason all other Republican members of Congress voted against it. The GOP leadership advised members to vote against the bill because it, quote, would create unnecessary and duplicative domestic terrorism offices, and these agencies already have the necessary authorities to investigate, prosecute, and interrupt legitimate domestic terrorist threats. Yes, what they're saying is absolutely correct, but it's appallingly hypocritical coming from the party whose president signed the Patriot Act into law and who continue to vote yes whenever it comes up for renewal. And by letting them virtue signal by voting against the DTPA, Democrats are allowing the Republicans to say that they're the ones who are opposing the surveillance state, when in reality, both parties, with very few limited exceptions, are perpetuating it. To wrap this all up, I'll leave you with a letter that was written by several House progressives, led by Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, after January 6th, that warned of the dangers, as well as the lack of the necessity, of another law to expand mass surveillance, disguised as fighting domestic terrorism. Now, the credit they get for writing this letter is not very much, given they voted for the DTPA, but yet again, it's another example of politicians' words not matching their actions. I know that's kind of a depressing note to end this on, but what did you expect when you clicked on this video knowing what it was going to be about? So, bottom line takeaway from this video is this. Yes, Peyton Gendron is a terrorist and he should be referred to as such. But no, we do not need any new laws to combat domestic terrorism when not only do we already have laws like that in place, but it will inevitably lead to an expansion of the surveillance state that has only worsened over the past 20 years. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please do the usual, like, comment down below, hit subscribe, and if you really enjoy the content I make, consider clicking the link below to support me on Patreon. Check out related videos I have over here, and I will see everybody in the next video. Peace out.